watching the It's Hertime podcast with Cody and Jess. Hi, welcome back to the It's Hertime podcast. My name is Cody Sanders, and I'm a holistic health practitioner and functional nutritionist and the host of this show. Now, I am the lucky one that I get a lot of messages from a lot of you women who ask me about which practitioner do I recommend and who do I see? Well, I'm so excited because today I actually am bringing on my actual practitioner to join us. And we're going to talk about a lot of things, but we're going to talk about how to find a practitioner that actually is going to listen to you, help you come to a diagnosis, and take you through a protocol that's going to include much more than just prescribing you medication. So I can't wait to get into this episode and have you get to know my favorite practitioner, Jason Hone. But before we do, let's join Jess for a Mixhers Girls Say.
Today on our Mixhers Girls Say, we're actually going to change things up a little bit. And we're going to talk about what the Mixhers team has been up to. I think sometimes you see brands and businesses and it's easy to forget that there's people behind it that are showing up every day to the grind of the business. We love what we do, but it for sure has its own challenges. And you see the products and you just see the business and don't really know about the people behind the scenes. But what we feel is so unique to Mixhers is that we have a team of incredible people that are building this business with us because they're so passionate about helping with women's health as well.
So true.
But we decided over the last little bit, I'm sure that many of you can relate to this feeling. You're facing every day. You're kind of doing the same things every day. You're working really hard at the same goals every day. And you just kind of can feel like your head is down working on something over and over and over again. You can get so focused on what is in your little world not that your world is little, but what is going on in your own world.
Yes.
But sometimes it's so refreshing to take a step back, step out of that daily grind and gain some new perspective.
Yeah.
And we felt as a company that it was going to be great for us to step into the community. We do a lot of things in the community and with a lot of different foundations. We've always done that in the history of Mixhers, but we were able to step away from work the other day and we went and gave our time to a local foundation called Tabitha's Way. The reason why I am wanting to share this on the podcast is because it was so incredibly eye-opening, not just to me, but also to the team about what can be going on right around you. So we were able to go and serve for a few hours. It was so great for the team to be bonding. But what we got to do is they take all this food from different food drives, they separate all the canned goods, and then they give it back to families in the community that are struggling to afford groceries. And I just felt like talking about this because what we did not know is that places like this exist all over the country, and what they have outside is dumpsters where you can donate. And the reason I'm caring about this on a podcast that I know we have listeners all across the country is I know that I'm not the only woman that can clean out my pantry, go through things and be like, A, my kids aren't going to eat this, or B, it just expired or is expiring so soon I'm going to throw it away. When in reality, I'm so grateful to be more aware that I can be donating those foods and that they're being used and really, really necessary out in different communities right now. I know that this Tabitha's Way Foundation specifically, they used to be helping about 120 families per week. They're helping over 600 families per week right now with getting food to survive.
Yeah.
And so I know that we're here as a brand educating you on our incredible products. We want you to be using our products. We're so grateful for our health. We're grateful that we have additional supplements that can help with our daily nutrition. And I think it's also absolutely great for us to be aware that there are people we can be helping in the community. Mixhers is going to be going and donating thousands and thousands of sticks of our multivitamin and our greens product to this foundation now that we're aware. And I just would challenge you to look around you in your communities for places that you can go and donate foods that you're not going to use in your household. and take care of the people right around in your community. And for the team, it was something that it was just a shift that we were all excited to make because we didn't know. And so that's why I'm sharing this today.
I love it. And all the team, when they came back, they just were so re-energized. It just feels so good when we are looking outside of, like you said, our worlds and just recognizing what's going on out in the world. And so really it could just be our neighbors, our neighborhood. We can do so much good and have such an incredible positive impact on the world when we just kind of open our eyes just a little bit more.
Yep. So now we can get into the episode. Mixhers is a company made for women by women. Each of our products have been carefully and lovingly crafted to support you in all stages of your life, providing you with the optimal health you deserve. Each ingredient we handpick is 100% all natural, backed by science, and chosen specifically to better your life physically, mentally, and hormonally. Each product empowers your body to take charge of its monthly hormonal shift and flows, empowering you to live life to the fullest. Let Mixhers take care of your needs from sunup to sundown, and you take care of the rest. Check us out at mixhers.com, Mixhers.
All right, everybody, I want you to meet Jason Hone. Jason Hone is a nurse practitioner. He's from Provo, Utah. But the beauty of this is I know so many of you are going to write in and say, well, I don't live in Provo, Utah, because we have an audience that's all over the world. But there's this beautiful thing that's called telehealth, and Jason has been seeing many of you through that because I've had Jason on the show before. We had an incredible episode where it's actually one of our top downloaded episodes where we dive into PCOS, which is seriously, if you are somebody that's been struggling with symptoms and you are maybe thinking it could be PCOS, but you haven't quite gotten the diagnosis, listen to that episode because it's going to really arm you with some really good information so that when you go and you meet with your practitioner, you are going to be able to be your own best health advocate. But I want to give Jason a second to say hi and tell us a little bit about you.
Well, hello. My name is Jason Hone, and I've been a nurse practitioner for 4.5 years now. But I've been practicing as an herbalist and doing a lot of other stuff in that regard for a very, 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 very long time. Been teaching herbs for 32 years at this point. So part of the reason I became a nurse practitioner is because I wanted to make sure that people were getting the help that they needed instead of that wonderful answer of it's in your head.
Yes.
Or, we can't find anything wrong with you. Like, well, look closer. But those were some of my big driving factors in becoming a nurse practitioner. And I got my little practice whole health team clinic in Provo. I treat pretty much everybody from birth through grave. My oldest patient right now is 98. My youngest patient is 2 weeks old. So we've got a spectrum of patients. But I do have a large number. In fact, I was looking at the statistics in preparation for this, and 63% of my patients are women because you actually pay attention to what's going on with your bodies and want to get taken care of. Most of us guys, we don't give ourselves the care that we should. But as a result of that, I've seen an awful lot of hormone imbalances, a lot of thyroid disorders, a lot of other things in that category. And women are particularly impacted by those because, well, for us guys, we're fairly simple folk. We're, 6 hormones kind of run our limbic system. And for you, it's 32. So, yeah, spectrum is a little bit skewed.
Yeah.
But that being said, I've seen some great success working with women. I've had some wonderful direction from the Utah Hormone Providers Group and helping me to get a bunch of training before I got in and during the last 4.5 years. But having a good network of people so that if I didn't know, I could ask them. That's a thing. I don't want to be one of those providers who's like, well, I know this because we can't know it all. Nobody can know it all.
Well, this is why I go to Jason. Jason is a wealth of knowledge. He can school me totally in herbs. And, I learned so much from him all the time. But I love that he has that background and that knowledge. But what Jason just said is the thing that has helped convince me that he is the type of practitioner that I want all of us to look for. Somebody who's willing to ask the questions, somebody who's willing to listen to you and really do the detective work that is needed to happen because it's sometimes we get into these situations where we go and meet with practitioners. And many times, like you mentioned, a lot of women are feeling very dismissed. They feel like they aren't being listened to. And they're being told that it's in their head, these symptoms. And we've had a lot of conversations about this, how frustrating that can be. But there are amazing practitioners that are out there that are like Jason, who care so much. And I love this about him. I often get text messages from Jason asking if I have any expertise that could maybe help to support his patients. And I do the same for him. And I know that he does that with this network. But that's the kind of practice that we should be seeing. This is the kind of care that should become the norm for all of us. And that's what I'm hoping is we're having these conversations to make it so we're all aware that this is possible. So I love that.
Well, that's actually the kind of the key behind why we call my clinic Whole Health Team, because it's the idea is that we're just part of the health team for a patient. Ideally, the patient is going to be the head of their own health decisions. A lot of the older styles of medicine, that was not the case. It was, well, this is what you're going to do. This is what you should do. Mm-hmm. But if a provider doesn't live in the patient's body, how do they get to make some of those decisions? Because what works for one patient will not necessarily work for every patient. And so tailoring it, individualized medicine, and then making sure that patients generally have, we live in an age of education and knowledge when you should be learning what's going on with your body so that you can make those decisions and you can have a good understanding of what is impacting your health. If you don't, then that's like saying, okay, I'm going to buy this car. It's a manual transmission, but I don't know how to drive a manual transmission. So hopefully I can figure that out. Mm-hmm. Well, there's manuals and there's instructors and there's teachers and trainers who can help you to manage that beautifully. But we need to do the same for our bodies. We need to take the time to get that education so that we can care for ourselves and our family members better.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about this community. We've been going strong for a little over almost 5 years this podcast has been going. I think a little over 4 years, maybe 4.5. Anyhow, but we're a community of people that really are passionate about learning. And that's something that I love. And so a lot of our audience members send in a lot of questions. They are always commenting on our episodes. I just love that everybody just seems like they're invested in this. And that's what the goal is of this podcast, is always to just try to bring experts on like Jason and to be able to answer some of these questions that many of you have. So I want to kind of lean this conversation into kind of like all of women's health, but I do want to talk about how you're unique and how you, when you work with a patient, we just kind of mentioned a little bit about it, that you're looking at their whole health. So you're doing the labs and you're finding out and you're doing what you need to do for diagnosis, but then you're also taking it the next steps further than that, which is, I think, unique.
Well, again, it goes back to having knowledge so that you can understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. I guess an example is I had a woman come see me. She came from, her sister paid to send her here from somewhere in the deep South. And she came in with an oxygen tank and was really struggling, with a lot of different things. But she had a history of breast cancer. She had a history of all these other things. Mm-hmm. And she has congestive heart failure. And she was on 3 medications to try to control her blood pressure, and she was very, very tachycardic. Just sitting in my office, she was 127 beats a minute. And I was like, okay, well, all these medications aren't working. Let's figure out what's going on here. What does your daily intake look like? Mm-hmm. So I started at the beginning. She says, well, I get up and I take my thyroid medicine, and then I go get a large Starbucks coffee. And I was like, okay.
Write that down.
that we got high blood pressure and we got all these other problems, and we're having a large coffee every morning. I said, okay, so tell me a little bit more about that coffee. She says, well, every morning when I go get that coffee, that is my joy in life. That is the one thing that I'm not willing to give up or change. And I put 13 shots of espresso in it every morning. Yeah. I'm like doing the math in my head. Okay, so that's like almost 900 milligrams of caffeine. No wonder none of the meds are working. No wonder your heart
feels like it wants to explode. Yeah.
So I identified the problem. Mm-hmm. The patient wasn't willing to change that at all.
Right.
But that was what she wanted. Mm-hmm. That was her trade-off.
Yeah. And you know what I would guess is that nobody ever mentioned anything to her about the things that she should be thinking about. They just kept prescribing more medication.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that you ask these questions and that you go down that road and talk to her about it. Now, of course, like I will just talk briefly about this. I read into this in my practice all the time. I had these women who felt very passionate and had very emotional connections to these different drinks in their life. So whether it was the coffee in the morning or it was the wine at night or the soda runs in the middle of the day, whatever it was like they were not willing to give it up. Although it was it was absolutely messing and contributing to the symptoms that they were suffering with. And so that is one of the biggest drivers for why we chose to put our Mixhers ingredients and make them into a liquid form, because we thought if we could make this so that women are having an emotional, experience and a yummy drink that they can look forward to every day that could hopefully replace some of these hormone disrupting type of drinks, then that would be a win-win, because we could give them, the benefit. They'd get, both the enjoyment as well as the nutritional support. And so, I find that all the time. But it's just like, it really took one question and you were able to find so much more out about what was going on with this woman's overall health.
It was an uncommonly simple solution to what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't willing to change it. And patients who like that, who don't want to change, they tend to not come visit me anymore.
Yeah.
But it's simple questions like that, or taking a look at the history and saying, all right, we've got this, then this, and this, but why do we have these results over here?
Right.
And then taking lab work, you mentioned that I like to do lab work.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but I look at it a different way than what a standard practitioner will look at.
I love
and
that too.
You have to remember that when a lab manager makes a decision as to what acceptable ranges are going to be there, they're primarily doing labs on sick people.
Right.
So I'm going to use B12 as an example.
Okay.
Because I test B12 levels on everybody.
And why do you do that real quick? Are you going to explain that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So with B12, if you take a look at it, most labs have a range between 212 and 900 or 1200.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say that's the healthy range.
Yeah.
Okay. But the interesting thing is, especially in women who have had more than 40 birthdays, if the number is 600 or less, they can have weird neuropathies and, pain sensation changes in their hands and feet. If left uncorrected by the age of 55, they can start having symptoms of early onset dementia.
Right.
Okay. But that's simple to fix. B12 is a water-soluble vitamin. And so too much is not going to be bad for you. Take more, please.
Yeah.
But take the right kind. Take a methylated kind. You don't want a cyanocobalamin.
Yes.
We could go into that. Suffice to say, it's disgusting. We won't go into that.
And Jason,
look at that.
You know that I care about that too. So if you are a Mixhers user, go look at your labels and you'll know that I agree. So
but getting a methylated B12, there is no toxic level. I mean, you just take it. Take it. You'll pee off any excess, but if you don't have enough, then you're gonna have problems. But again, on those lab readings, somebody will come back and it'll say that they're 230, and every other provider will be like, "Oh, you're fine." They're like,
normal.
"But I have pain in my feet. What's going on with that?" Well, the nerves can't repair. You can't make neurotransmitters. You can't use iron. You can't do a lot of things without that B12.
Yeah.
And so if you're clear down in the dumps on the, at the lower half, if you're under 600 and you've had more than 40 birthdays, get out there and go get yourself a methylated B12. And on those, if you've had any kind of damage to your stomach, you're not going to absorb it. So a sublingual or an injection is what you're going to end up needing. Most people can do okay with a sublingual, but there are those that require injections for that B12. And so that makes all the difference in the world. All of a sudden, you've got improved mental health. You got improved utilization of iron so that you can actually get over some anemias. A lot of women struggle with anemia. But that B12 is crucial to so many aspects of life. Yeah, like you mentioned, fatigue. But really, I use it in what I call my mental health protocol.
Yeah.
If people don't have enough of it, men and women.
Yeah.
But specifically women, you burn through it faster. And I can point to lab results identifying that all day long.
Yeah.
But you ladies, because of that constant change in your hormone levels as your bodies cycle, you burn through it faster than we do as guys.
Yeah. So nutrient deficiency, I mean, like B12, like when was the last time you had a B12 shot, and when you did, were you told like you're in a normal range? It's good to know this stuff so that you could like link some of maybe the symptoms that you are associating that you haven't just quite like connected the dots yet with, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we have vitamin B12 in a methylated form in Hertime and in our Mixhers multi, and in several of our products. We use all methylated B vitamins because it's so important for us to be able to help with absorption and help those of you that are having a harder time with methylation to be able to actually utilize those nutrients. And so I love that. Yeah, carry on. I love this. So what else do you see a lot of times when you're doing this testing? What are some of the other things that are commonly found?
I'd have to say one, and I mentioned this to you before, one of the things that I really want to draw attention to is systemic inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So in the world post-COVID, it is everywhere. It doesn't matter how you got exposed to that virus, whether it was through a vaccine or catching the virus or just being around in life generally.
Right.
I am seeing huge amounts of systemic inflammation, and nobody else is really looking. Most of the other providers that I get patients from are not looking for this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's around the heart, and it's in the muscles and joints and everything. And that is impacting thyroid function. That's impacting heart health. That's impacting your hormone management, because if there's cellular inflammation, then those hormones can't get through to those receptor sites on your cells.
Right.
And it's the same thing with your T3.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody talks about thyroid hormones.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I just have no energy or whatever. And I've got one really good friend who, he's a nurse practitioner up in Salt Lake, and I've been sitting in his office when he was doing a telehealth with a patient.
Right.
And I can see the results right there. And she says, I'm just so fatigued all the time. I just have no energy, and
mm-hmm.
I just keep gaining weight. And he says, well, don't know what to tell you. All your labs are in line. And I'm looking over there, and you've got T4, which is, made directly by the thyroid.
Right. T3,
which is then partially converted by the thyroid, but converted by other areas in the body.
Right.
And her T3 level was 1/10 above the cutoff line. So as in, the cutoff line is 2.2, and she's at 2.3, and she's symptomatic and fatigued. And I'm like, and he covers the phone and says, not your patient.
Oh, God. Which is sad. It's so sad.
But understanding that those are parameters that they see at the lab, not necessarily indicative of good health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We see lots of this. Well, yeah, you see lots of that.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I like that T3 level for those who are interested? Usually, I like it optimized around a 3.5 or higher. It can go up to a 4.4.
Yeah.
But then we just kind of watch other symptoms in the body and make sure that it's not too high for that patient.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it optimized around 3.5. Why can't your body convert that? Because of cellular inflammation. So that's what I look at. So a homocysteine level on your labs, asking for a homocysteine level, that makes a big difference. We mentioned B12.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if somebody's got a really low B12 and a really high homocysteine level, you're looking at very likely an MTHFR variation on a gene. And that can be either heterozygous or homozygous.
Mm-hmm.
And that MTHFR doesn't allow them to methylate things like synthetic B vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
Synthetic B vitamins, which weren't even legal to be sold until 1977. And now we soak all of our grain in them. We soak all of our rice in them.
We fortify our foods with them. We do. I mean, it's like
anything that says enriched or fortified
prenatal vitamins
has been soaked in those.
Yeah.
And the bad part about that is, depending on which study you read, 37 to 51% of people can't methylate it.
Yeah. It's a huge part of our population. And in fact, they think the numbers are higher. The reason they're finding out that so many of these people have an issue with their methylation is that they have all of these gene testing that's out there, like 23andMe. And so it's becoming a little bit more known. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that signs that can indicate, even without having a test like that, whether you have this gene mutation as well. And we don't need to get into that, but that is something for people to consider, in this age of information. We've got stuff like 23andMe, or we've got a really good one here in Utah that's True DNA Story. Right.
They've got a wonderful genetic profile. I love that one. But there's other companies out there that do it as well. But if you ever have big questions about, well, why is my body like this? Or am I having a problem?
Mm-hmm.
I've been told all this time that I am healthy, but that they can't find anything wrong with me, but something feels off. Do one of those genetic tests. It might cost you $1,000, but you've got knowledge and you can act accordingly. I had one patient, a guy just this last year, who he's 42. For his whole life, his family just been telling him he was a wuss, that he was just being a wimp because it hurt. Everything hurt all the time. And he finally went and did that big one that I was just talking about from True DNA Story. And it came back that, oh, look at that. He had a genetic issue with his connective tissue. It was very, 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 very validating for him.
Yes.
Because then he went back to his family. See, I'm not crazy. I had a reason that I was in pain all this time. And it really helped heal a lot of things for him.
Yeah. Much more than physical, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like some of the things that you just talked about, like just when we are doing this type of lab work, understanding what the normal range actually is and what it means. And I like how Jason talked about, we actually want to see those numbers coming back in optimal range. That's something very important instead of just the normal range, because you could still be in the normal range, be very low and very symptomatic. And again, this goes back to what I talked about at the very beginning of this episode, is that so many times, I know, because I hear from all of you, and I've also been there too, that you have these symptoms and then you're told that you're normal, and it does feel like you are being dismissed and like it's all in your head. So that validation is so incredible. And so that's important. We need to have the right information for ourselves, but then also find practitioners that are willing to look for the optimal ranges and promote the optimal ranges and educate us on what we can do, as far as lifestyle and nutrition, and as well as maybe pharmaceuticals, to address it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a combination of all of those in order to balance.
Absolutely.
We want to use, just because we've got a big toolbox doesn't mean we can't use all the tools.
We really should use all of the tools. And, that's when I was in practice, I was working with doctors who, would do the diagnosis, but then they didn't want to take care of the patient after, so it was more like, this is what you have. And then it was me that would help them say, okay, now we know what it is that you're dealing with. Let me help you to, utilize nutrition and lifestyle strategies to help take you through this so that we can help improve your holistic health. And so I love that you utilize all of these different tools in your toolbox when you are working with a patient. I love that you are somebody that can prescribe pharmaceuticals, because that is amazing for most of us. But you don't just stop there. You also ask the questions about what is going on with their diet, what's going on with their lifestyle, what's going on with their stress levels, and try to kind of get to the root of what is happening. And then as you take a patient, past that point, I also would love for you to share with us, like, when you see a patient, like, what are some of the protocols, or some of the, I know it's different for everybody, but what are some of the protocols that you are starting to implement and see that's been very successful with a lot of your patients?
Well, I'd have to, I mentioned my mental health protocol, and that's one that I think everybody should know and understand. Especially because some of the aspects of that don't just balance the limbic system, they balance the whole body. And so that my mental health protocol has 5 elements. Okay. The first is vitamin D. And why is vitamin D important? Well, you probably have tons and tons of listeners who reside north of the 35th parallel. Right. Well, from the 1st of September through the end of May, if you reside north of the 35th parallel, if you are not taking vitamin D, you are hurting yourself. Because you can't make serotonin, dopamine, or melatonin without vitamin D.
So you're feeling stressed, you're feeling depressed, and you're not sleeping well, right?
That is correct. But more than that, like if you're going and working out and you don't get that high after working out, if you eat some chocolate and it's just sweet, it doesn't give you a endorphin rush. If you are intimate with your partner and it doesn't have any lasting anything. If you go ride a roller coaster and that was just a ride, that's a sign that your dopamine's too low. That means that you need to be saying, okay, what building blocks am I deficient in? And vitamin D, if you're north of the 35th parallel, is usually the culprit. But it does more than that. So we look at vitamin D for hormone stuff. For men, if we drop below 35 on our, ideal range, not what they'll list on the tests, but the ideal range that we want people is between 50 and 80 nanograms per deciliter. Okay. On a man, if he drops down to 35, I will see below 35, I will see low testosterone. And I don't care if he's 17. I don't care if he's 55. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If he has low vitamin D, he will have reduced testosterone from where he should be.
And what are you seeing in women?
In women, I see PCOS, hormone imbalances, terrible postmenopausal symptoms, because you can't regulate, you can't make hormones if your vitamin D is below 30.
Right. What would you say the population, I mean, this might be a guess, I'm putting you on the spot. What amount of the population is vitamin D deficient, would you say? Would you guess? Or you can even just say your patients. Let's just say the patients that come into you, how many people would you say you find that they are lacking? Here
in Utah, because we're 850 miles north of that line,
I
would say that probably between 65 and 75% of my patients, when they first come see me, are vitamin D deficient.
Are most of them supplementing? Sorry to interrupt you, but are most of them supplementing?
Now
they are. Okay, but they weren't.
They weren't.
Okay.
It makes such a dramatic effect that even my 18 to 20-year-old patients who are, notoriously good at following through.
Sure. Yeah, always.
Even them.
Yeah.
They're saying, you know what? If I don't take my vitamin D, I know it.
Yeah, you feel it.
So they take their vitamin D if they take nothing else. And so that, that tells me a lot because it makes a significant. So that's just the first part.
Yeah.
And, some other pluses about the vitamin D and why I use this on everybody for hormone management or anything else is because there was a study that was released in March of 2023, 767,000 patients, Northern European patients, but 20-year observational study. And it showed 30% reduction in all forms of heart disease, 30% reduction in all cancers, 62% reduction in all autoimmune disorders. This is a big cohort.
Massive, yeah.
767,000 patients for 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big
That's
cohort.
robust, yeah.
54% reduction in the development of dementia.
Incredible, yeah.
That's just vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Okay, so that's aspect number one.
Which we have in Mixhers multivitamin. I'm just going to point out. Yep.
Good.
Yep.
The next one is going to be your omega-3s. Omega-3s are critical. You can't make hormones. They require healthy fats to make them.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many of my patients, especially women, come in with hormone imbalances. And we'll look at their lipid panel and their HDLs will be 30 or 20.
Which is their good cholesterol.
Yeah.
That's what we want to have.
HDLs are your high-density lipoproteins. We want lots of those. Like ideally, I want them, between 70 and 80 on a patient.
But you're saying 30.
And 40 is the cutoff line for being bad. And so I'll get these people in there with really bad hormone imbalances, and they are, 30 and 26. And
really
I've had multiple of those this week. And I was like, okay, we need to get your healthy fats up.
Yeah.
Well, how do I do that? So then we talk about sources for good, healthy omega-3s. So your grass-fed mammals, your wild-caught fish. Because if the fish have been fed grain or been kept in a tank, then they don't have the omega-3s.
Yeah, you want the fish that are eating the algae. So, right?
We need wild-caught stuff, and we need grass-fed stuff. It's not rocket science here.
Right.
But those, healthy omega-3s for hormone regulation and brain health are critical.
Yeah.
Next one is going to be trace minerals. You have to have them. And a lot of our food is deficient. So throwing stuff like nettles in there or getting a good supplement or, some of the stuff that you guys have. Or, we've got a company here that I love that's it's called the Trace Minerals Company. And are you familiar with them? They sell a product called Concentrace. And I just put drops in. And it's like, okay, look, there we go. I got my trace minerals.
Right.
Simple. But trace minerals are required for hormone specialization, which we don't have any enzymes or hormones that need specialization, of course, and for neurotransmitter specialization. So, let's see. So that might be important. Next one is B vitamins. And can you guess which kind I like? Methylated B vitamins. And for anybody who's having problems with depression or anxiety, I want them taking 1,000 micrograms. That's 1 milligram. So tons, tons. But a day, sublingually, because it makes such a difference on energy level, neurotransmitter creation, hormone balance, nerve repair, tissue repair.
Right.
Okay, it does too many things. So, and then the last one is actually protein. So glutamine. I use glutamine or have them use bone broth. And you want to do that. So if somebody is under stress, nobody in our day and age is ever under stress.
Never,
of course not. But if your brain is under stress, it doesn't matter if it's a positive stress or negative stress. The body will prioritize brain management of that stress over system repair. And so that's why if somebody's really stressed, they get an ulcer. It's because the body will rob 80% of a simple amino called glutamine,
right,
to go to making neurotransmitters instead of
repairing the gut.
System repair. Why is that important? Well, all of those simple squamous epithelium that line your intestinal tract, all the passageways of your body, your blood cells, they line, your blood vessels. Those simple squamous epithelium line everything. And they live for a long time, a whole 20 minutes. And in order to replace themselves, they require adequate protein, specifically glutamine. Well, if 80% of that's just been ripped out for brain management, stress, then it's super effective for fixing everything. And so, especially for women who have hormone fluctuations on a scheduled basis.
Every day,
the brain gets stressed. So you burn through protein more. And when we have a lot of these really strange diets, and I'm sorry, I'm going to call them strange.
That's fine. Yeah.
But you get the vegan and vegetarian diets. Plant proteins do not have branched chain aminos.
Right.
The second they hit your digestive tract, they're not any good as protein anymore. So you need actual good protein with branched chain aminos, which comes from animal products. But you need good, adequate protein multiple times a day. If you're getting to 10:30 or 11 in the morning, say you got up and you did have a good protein to start with. But like between 6 and 8 a.m. And then by 10 or 11, you're feeling like this, you're just kind of, well, that's probably an indicator that you have low protein because your body can't continue to make the neurotransmitters.
Right.
So if mid-morning and mid-afternoon, you throw in, say, some glutamine or something that's got a protein boost.
Collagen, yes.
Then you're going to have what you need to make those neurotransmitters. And you're going to allow the gut to heal. And you're going to be able to stabilize hormones and everything else. So
it's powerful. It's powerful. And it's so important that we recognize that, we have a lot of power in our hands by utilizing some of these and going down these different protocols. I want to go, I know that was general for like our mind, brain health, because I think that's so important because like you said, the body always is going to prioritize the brain health. So I feel like that's an important place for us to get a lot of information about where we might have some deficiencies. But I want us to get more specific into women's health because I know that there's a lot of people that I send to you, but also people just find you on their own or people that listen to you on this podcast that come to you specifically for women's hormonal health issues. And I would love for you to share with the audience because I know they hear from me, they hear from our customers, they have these great testimonials about the way that, Hertime, for instance, has absolutely changed their lives, helped them to feel so much better, feel like they can show up, feeling like their best selves. But I love for practitioners like you who are doing this work and diving in and finding all of the information and guiding these people through these type of protocols and helping women get to the other end of where their suffering is. If you can just kind of give us a little bit of a glimpse of some of the things that you've seen in your practice with some of these patients that have come to you.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems that I'm having, I mentioned it a couple of times so far, is that systemic inflammation because that is impacting women's health so much. It doesn't matter if we're talking hormone levels or if we're talking thyroid management or heart health. And those are all three tied together.
All connected, yes.
They're very much, it's very much a big cascade.
Yeah.
But if we start having issues with systemic inflammation, which I don't have, I don't remember the last time I had a patient who did not have an elevated homocysteine level.
Right.
Over the last 3 years, I have not seen a patient who had no homocysteine.
Incredible.
And especially when I'm, like I told you, 63% of my patients are women. So yeah. But they'll come in, and so as far as homocysteine levels go, 0 to.
Let's explain. Really quick. Homocysteine. When we're saying that,
it's an inflammatory marker.
So it's a test that you can ask for if you don't know what that big word means. But that's what you want to ask for, and it's going to show this level of inflammation in the body.
Yes, it's a marker for systemic inflammation, and so we count it as a low level between 1 and 6.
Okay.
Moderate would be 7 to 11. 12 and higher is considered high. And a lot of the people I'm seeing right now are 10 or higher. In fact, in the last 3 months, I don't think that I've had anybody below 8.
Is that right? And how's it manifesting? What are you seeing with a lot of these people?
Low T3, low thyroid function, hormones out of whack. And that's because when you have that systemic inflammation, hormones can't cross the barriers into the cells,
right.
Those gateways that allow access to the cells. They've got too much junk in the way. So those hormones can't get in. So everybody's out of whack.
So is that what inflammation looks like when you're looking at this? Is like junk that just kind of like blocks, the cells, or what does it look like in the body?
It's like a little bit of extracellular fluid, and it can cause like a thickening of the cell walls. It's not like a true thickening, but it's like increased space in there.
Got it.
You got this extra garbage that's floating around.
It helps me to picture it in my head.
Yeah. There's several wonderful providers online who offer classes on that stuff all the time. You can learn some great stuff on this inflammation process, but the idea is to get rid of that inflammation so that everything can realign. Could we go give more T3? Oh yeah, we could go give more T3.
But we're not addressing the root.
But that's band-aiding the problem. Might we use a little bit to get them to a level? Absolutely.
To help with symptoms in the short term. Yeah. Right.
But then we attack the inflammation. And so you're like, okay, well, how do we attack inflammation? The inflammation, you've got to figure out what sources there are. Everybody might have a different source. Somebody may be allergic to wheat.
Right.
Not everybody is allergic to wheat. Do we need to take everybody off gluten? No. Some people it might be dairy. Some people it might be nightshade vegetables like tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, and eggplant. If you have any reaction to one of those, you may have some sensitivity to others. And so I'll say, okay, try cutting those things out for 2 weeks. If you don't notice an improvement, well, probably wasn't that.
Yeah.
But, cutting it out for 2 weeks. I mean, you're a functional nutritionist. You know this game. So I would just say, then slowly reintroduce.
Right.
If you start to notice increased pain or problem,
there's
maybe there
connection.
was more of a problem than you think.
Right.
So I'll definitely address food. But other things that you can do is, turmeric. There's no toxic level. You can take it. Some sources will tell you, well, it makes it so you don't clot. No, not.
Like it's always these extreme amounts of
that's a very exaggerated.
Yeah, I feel like that's common. Yeah,
and as far as all of the testing goes through multiple countries and multiple agencies, there is no toxic level of turmeric.
Right,
and the anti-inflammatory effects last for 4 hours. So take some turmeric.
It's amazing
in whatever form you can get it, but combine it with black pepper because the black pepper enhances uptake of the curcuminoids by 200%. So. Okay, you start doing that every day. Well, what else do we need to address? Well, usually if people have inflammation around their system generally, they may have inflammation around their heart, especially post-COVID. So I will run a heart-specific CRP or cardiac reactive protein. And that is a direct indicator of inflammation in the heart muscle itself.
Scary.
It is very, very scary. And if you're seeing high inflammation homocysteine, you better be looking to make sure that inflammation hasn't come around the heart. I'd probably say that of my patients who I've seen since January, probably 70% have had severe elevation in their CRP that needed addressing. So we shouldn't have any inflammation in that heart. We shouldn't. We just shouldn't.
So, but we're seeing
and
it more and
wasn't
more.
something that we've seen until post-COVID.
Yeah.
But like I had a 24-year-old last October who his work pushed him to go get a booster on that. His mom owns a gym, and she was like, he says he can't work out anymore. He says it feels like he's just going to die. Well, we ran his labs, and his homocysteine was at 17, and 12 is high, and his CRP So it's cardiac reactive protein, heart-specific CRP was at 27. So let me give you a little run-in on that. We want it 1 or less. That puts you at low risk for cardiac event. Between 1 and 1.1 and 2.9 is average risk. 3 and greater is considered high risk for a cardiac event. This kid's 24 years old. His was at 27. Okay, so it took us 3 months to get that down, but we got it down.
Well, that's what I want to learn. So I keep going, but I want to get back to because I know inflammation itself is, we talk about root causes of hormone imbalance. That's what we talk about a lot in this. But stress, chronic stress, inflammation is one of the worst chronic, stress symptoms of, or causes, I would say, of a lot of the symptoms that we're experiencing. So it's a huge, but keep going. I want to hear more about this. Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff, one of the reasons that I really like some of your products are because, number one, you've got the methylated Bs in there. But a lot of my patients who, for purposes of managing some of their effects with PCOS, were taking Hertime or Hertime Complete Care. Because a lot of the ingredients in there are anti-inflammatory.
Right.
Then that has helped to make a significant difference for them.
I love it.
One of those, for instance, has started seeing me when she was 19. And she's been following with me for 2 years now. When she first came to see me, she had severe Hashimoto's. She had put on about 40 pounds of weight. She was severe classic PCOS,
right.
We thought.
Right.
But over the last 2 years of management, she just came to see me in March with her fiance, and she is in complete remission of all of those inflammatory things. She has, her Hashimoto's is in remission. Good thyroid function. Her homocysteine is clear down lower than it's ever been.
It's amazing.
I mean, it was at a 6. So, you go from 15, 16 to 6. That's a significant change.
Yeah.
Her PCOS, all of her hormones, her FSH, LH were 1-to-1. Okay. You can't, these are objective numbers that you can't really argue. And so it makes a big difference because when she started, she was 9-to-1. Okay. So these are big improvements, but all of that was getting rid of inflammation. And, she stayed on that the whole time. I have other patients who will use a combination of turmeric, some cayenne capsules, and then a proteolytic enzyme, like either serrapeptase or nattokinase or bromelain. And they'll take that, they'll follow that for a series of 3 months.
Right.
And then we'll rerun those inflammatory numbers, and all of a sudden they're better. And we'll check the thyroid again. And all of a sudden they're converting T3. Weird.
No.
It's a matter of getting rid of that inflammation. If we get rid of it, all of a sudden life is better and things work the way they are supposed to work.
And one of the most effective ways that we can get rid of inflammation is through the diet and through proper supplementation, like Jason just talked about. It's so important. There's so many things that we don't realize that our lifestyle contributes, but also things that are kind of out of our hands that can feel frustrating. We're seeing these higher numbers of, inflammatory markers since COVID. This is something that's happening everywhere. We were all exposed to it in some way or another, it seems like. But it's good for us to know that there is hope because, patients like this, like your PCOS and Hashimoto's patient came to Jason, was able to, you were able to dive in, figure out exactly what was going on, start addressing at the root, addressing her inflammation, using the ingredients that are in Mixhers, Hertime and Hertime Plus, that help to reduce inflammation. That is what the purpose of the ingredients that are in all of our formulas. That's what I'm always trying to do, is try to help reduce inflammation in the body and also provide the nutrients that help to support our body's natural functions. But inflammation is a big one. It's a big cause, a big root cause of hormone imbalance and all of the other things, heart, issues and brain issues. And I mean, you name it, inflammation is a killer. And we really do need to get a handle on it. We can do so much through our diet alone, but I'm somebody who, and I'm sure you are too, Jason, that really cares about the things that I'm eating, the things that are on my plate, and trying to do the things that I can to reduce stress and all of that. But I depend on supplementation as well. It's not like I'm getting enough of these nutrients from the nutritious food that I'm eating. Supplementation has become something that is a must. And I used to think when I first started that it's always, and it still is food first for sure.
Yeah.
You can't just, out supplement a nasty, disgusting diet. Like you're not going to be able to see the benefits. I mean, it'll do you some good, but like you still need to eat right and then use these as a supplement to a nutritious diet. But I just think that it's important for us to know the power in this, because I feel like oftentimes when we're going and we're looking for the answers, this isn't a road that many doctors or other practitioners are familiar enough with to help to combine and to like bring the pieces or the tools in the toolbox together. It's powerful. It's nutritional therapy. There's so many things that we can do to help just support the body, to help to reduce inflammation, help to relieve ourselves of a lot of the symptoms that are holding us back.
Yeah. It's a matter of looking at all intake as being a medicine or a fix for the body. Another good example on that, a lot of your women probably have some concerns about bone health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So calcium intake, do some of our foods have it? Yes. Do a lot of our foods oversell what they have available? Yes. But if you know what parameters you need to get during a day, so like an average adult woman needs between 2,000 and 2,500 milligrams. If you're breastfeeding, you need more like 3,000 milligrams a day of calcium. And you're like, okay, well, that seems like an awful lot. But you take a look at, say, a glass of raw milk, 8 ounces of raw milk, and you've got, roughly 400 milligrams of calcium right there. You pasteurize and homogenize that, and 57% is absorbable. That changes the game.
Yeah,
so
it does, absolutely.
then you have to say, okay, I need this much during the day. I can get, 90 milligrams from a serving of broccoli, but I'm going to need to supplement a little bit or I'm not going to reach that 2,000. Do I want you to supplement everything? Absolutely not. I want you to get as much from your food as you possibly can.
Food first, yeah.
But if you need the supplements, we have the technology and we have the availability. Please use it.
Yeah. It means a lot that you use our products in your practice. It means a lot. I care a lot about how, what I'm formulating. I put a lot of time and energy and thought and study into what is going to actually help support us as women specifically. Tell me why you've chosen to have Mixhers products in your practice.
Well, I'm an evidence-based practitioner. If I hear about something, I'm like, okay, I want to see how this works. And there's not massive studies out there showing how Mixhers works, but I've had enough patients come in and like I've get some of these 18, 19-year-old patients who they'll hear about the product, but they're having terrible problems with their hormone balance. And so they'll start taking it. And within 4 to 6 cycles, all of a sudden we have regulation that didn't exist prior. I'm like, okay. And they didn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Except add vitamin D, most of them. I put a lot of them on that. I put a lot of them on that.
That's great.
That mental health protocol, but because it balances hormones as well. But combining it with the Mixhers products, and I don't just use it for women. So like the greens and the her hydration, fabulous for everybody. Yeah, I absolutely love those. But I see good effects. It's not just about having something that tastes good. It's about okay, I could point you to 40 patients easily that have had positive benefits from using Hertime and Hertime Complete. That's right off the bat. And you get studies of medications that are smaller than that and they get approval. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, this is evidence for me. This is my empirical data. I can say without a doubt, yes, it helped these patients. So that's my reason for continuing to use it. I like it and I use what works for my patients. Well, there you go.
We appreciate that because it means a lot. And yeah, we are in the works of doing the studies. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to be able to do these big clinical studies. We currently have a study that's going on with our Hertime formula, which is exciting. And hopefully that will be able to be published soon. But yeah, it's just real-time data. I mean, when I was in my practice, I was using these ingredients to help support my clients. and seeing and doing kind of my own, observation as well, and getting feedback from these clients. We were tracking, their cycles, we were tracking their symptoms, we were tracking their moods, we were tracking their energy, we were tracking all of this. And then several of them also were getting their lab work. So we were able to see, their lab. And this is how I developed, Hertime specifically. And then as we've gone on to create other additional products for Mixhers as well. But it was the real-time data, talking to people one-on-one and seeing the benefits. I'm excited to then take it to the bigger, next level. That's why I love having practitioners, that are on board, because I know these are the type of minds and the type of people that really care about what it is that they're recommending to their patients. They're not just trying to sell a supplement. They're trying to actually help support your health and your healing. And I always feel very proud when people see what it is that we're doing over here at Mixhers and appreciate it, because I think sometimes people do think that Mixhers is just a yummy drink, and it is, but there's so much more to it. It's very powerful nutrition, and we're just grateful for practitioners like you that are helping us to be able to help educate women, but also men, about the power of nutrition and how it's important for us to take a root cause approach when it comes to disease. And so thank you so much for being a guest on here. I know we could talk for hours and hours. I'll have you on here again. I know we're going to have a lot of you that are going to want to connect with Jason, and I will put all of his contact information in our show notes. But I hope that you were inspired by some of the things that he taught us today, but even more so with just the manner of which he handles his patients and the way that he cares so deeply for them and really takes care of them from beginning to end. I think that's what makes you stand apart. And I want to see more practitioners that are like you. So thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And as you know, I always appreciate it when you share these episodes with the girls in your life, because sharing is caring. This is how we get this kind of information out, how we can all become our best own health advocates. And I hope that you will tune in again. We have another episode dropping next week. We have episodes that go out every single Tuesday. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Go and subscribe and leave us a comment or a review, because we love to get input from you so that we know what you are wanting to learn and what type of guests you're wanting us to have on the show. Until next week, I hope you have a very happy and healthy week. Bye.